All right, what is up everyone? We are back and today we're gonna go over my top 5 best beginner drivers. Let's get into it. So this is definitely a video I'm surprised we haven't done on the channel yet. Just us being a retail store and trying to get new people into the sport. So I figured at the beginning of the year, this would be a great opportunity because I'm very hopeful that a bunch of new people are going to start playing disc golf, whether that be just in our area or even across the country, across the world, whatever that may be. So I thought it would be good to maybe give some very good examples and probably our most sold beginner drivers. So I've got 5 drivers and they're all varying speeds, usually like a 9 to 7 or maybe 9 to 6, I don't quite remember, but they're all gonna be about the same, like understability, because that's really what's important for a beginner driver is that understability. Because if you're throwing very stable discs as a newer person who has a slower arm or more form, you're gonna get absolutely no distance unless you just like are a prodigy at the game, which some of you are. And I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to like just knowing discs and the shot shapes and the speeds and everything, you know, whatever it may be. And so I think it's just having an understable disc allows for a little more room for error as a beginner. I think that's a good way to put it, a little more room for error, but it definitely compensates for that slower arm speed or bad mechanics. I'll tell you what, it is super muddy here. I think it'll get better. We had some snow, but it's funny, I really hadn't planned on recording today, but it was like the one day within like the past couple weeks that was like right at freezing. It wasn't below freezing. So it's technically warm for what it has been the past couple weeks. So I figured I better get out and do something. All right, so like I said, I have 5 different drivers. They're from different companies. 2 are from the same, but they're hand in hand. It's kind of just like a dealer's choice on one of these. So figured I'd show them both. And then the other 3 are all from different companies. All right, so I think I'm gonna go by slowest speed and just move up. First, we have the Discmania Genius. This is in their active line. Super good feeling plastic. Next, we have the Prodigy F7. This, I believe, is another 7-speed. We have the Discraft Heat. I think we bumped up, so I believe these are 9 speeds now. So Heat is a 9-speed, and then we have the Innova Sidewinder and the Innova Roadrunner. And these discs are almost the same thing. There's just a slight difference, and I'll explain that here in a second. So the only difference between the Roadrunner and the Sidewinder is that the Sidewinder has a -3 turn and the Roadrunner has a -4 turn. So, you know, you might throw, some people are brand specific. I think you should branch out. I'm starting to do that now. And I've been playing for almost 5 years. I'm just starting to do that. For people that just like the feel of a disc, but maybe want a slightly different flight, these are like great, like hand in hand complements, because one is obviously gonna get ideally a little more turn than the next one. We'll see if they actually fly different. Sometimes there's inconsistencies and stuff like that. So like these could actually be like super stable and not good for this video at all. So who knows? Also, I'll quit talking here soon, but this is almost like a disclaimer. I know there's people in the comments that are going to say beginners should not throw drivers because they have bad mechanics or because they have slower arm speeds, whatever. I partly agree with that to a certain extent, but I recommend drivers to a lot of beginners, maybe not as a first disc, but something to, you know, a second or third disc to try out, just to try out different speeds, because most times like it's recommended you just throw putters or mids to try to work on the form first, but you can work on form with drivers. You can do it with any disc. I think it makes sense to do it with putters and mids, but you can certainly do it with drivers, especially if you're looking to get distance as well. All right, so I'm gonna play a few. I'm probably gonna end up playing 9 holes around here. It's super cold, so I might not, to be honest with you, but I'm gonna throw all 5 off each tee. And I think what I'm gonna do is try to emulate being a beginner as best as possible. And I think the best way I can do that is just throw these discs a lot slower than I probably would, just to like simulate kind of like, you know, a beginner thrower who is a little slower and trying to figure out form. All right, so we're gonna go with the Genius first and just again, work up from speeds, but I'm just gonna try this nice and smooth, and I'm gonna throw it probably on a touch of hyzer, and you'll probably see how much these flip. So, I mean, honestly, that was a fine shot. I did not throw that very hard. I've been working on the tech disc a lot, so that was probably like a low 50s, maybe like right at 50-mile-an-hour shot. I threw it on a lot of hyzer and it flipped up. So like things like that, if you're watching that as a new thrower, even if you're gonna throw it a little slower, you throw that out flatter than I did, and you're probably gonna get a very, very similar flight. All right, up next we have the F7. I'm just gonna go same thing, just nice, like barely touch a hyzer. And I'm for the new people that are like listening to this, I'm throwing it on a little bit of hyzer because that's typically like the most common like release angle. I typically throw on a lot like flat and hyzer. That's just kind of my normal throw, but I'm throwing it on hyzer because that's pretty common. It's a little wider. Actually might go in. Oh my gosh. All right, so now keep in mind when you're watching, because I'm bumping up to the 9 speeds, is that these probably, I'm gonna try to throw them on the same angle. These probably won't flip as much as the others because they are a little bit higher speed, even though they all have -4 turn. See, that one pretty much just hyzered out. And that has the same numbers as the Roadrunner, so I can only imagine it's gonna be very similar flight. All right, so we've got the Roadrunner now. We'll see if it does the same thing. That one, yeah, still flipped up. I think I probably threw that one on more hyzer than the last one, so we're gonna take off a little bit of hyzer with the Sidewinder and then see if it does the same thing as that Heat does. Oh, I yanked it. I don't even know if that's in frame. I went really far though. Oh yeah. All right, so I yanked that one, but still, that one hyzer, it flipped up just a touch, but still didn't turn at all. And that's because of that, it's like that higher speed disc. All right, I actually feel like that hole was pretty good judgment on the disc flights based on what I think a beginner could do with those realistically. And I think that hole might be like 280 feet, which if you're a beginner throwing 300 plus like right out of the gate, bravo to you because you're doing something definitely right. This next hole, there's no distances on them. I'm guessing it's probably like 360-ish, 340-ish maybe. It's a pretty good ways out there. I'm gonna throw the same thing, but what I'm gonna try to do is do the hyzer flips through the middle and something that turns right. And so these would probably be ideal for the higher speed just because of the distance. They're a little more torque resistant just because of their higher speeds than the lower ones. So I don't expect super good shots out of the 7 speeds. This is just like, obviously, those probably aren't the shot or the disc for the shot, but we'll see. We're gonna start with the Genius again. I'm gonna put this one, well actually, I don't know. I'm trying to decide the best way to like simulate being a beginner at throwing like this shot specifically. You know what I mean? I think I'm just gonna try to go out flat and really soft. Not really soft, but you know what I mean, softer. Oh, or I'll throw it in the ground. It's probably a common beginner thing. Granted, I do it a lot. I'm changing it up a little bit. I think what I'm gonna do is try to go like hyzer on the outside, like on this right side, and let them crash back in, just to show that like, just because these discs are super understable, you can throw them in a way to where they're not just gonna like dump over like that should you get a hold of it. Oh, I slipped too. See that one, I really hope you can see that. Oh my gosh, I keep falling. Yeah, that was actually a really good shot. I don't know how much you saw there, but that flipped up to flat. And again, I'm not throwing these hard at all. A lot of times, probably like my normal shot on this hole, I'm throwing, well, I'm probably throwing a forehand, but I'm throwing backhand, something super stable on the outside. But in this case, that flipped up, not quite to flat, kind of pushed straight and then fell back. I'm probably like circle 2, like I bet I'm 40 feet, if not closer than that. So I actually really like that shot. All right, we're gonna step up 9 speeds now and try to do the same exact thing. And what's gonna happen is they're not gonna hyzer out, or they're not gonna flip up as much. And I'm honestly probably gonna be closer to the basket as well. All right, I adjusted the camera angle. So hopefully if you didn't see the first one, you can definitely see this one. I actually threw that one pretty hard and that flipped all the way up. Wow, that went far though. That was the Heat. Yeah, I threw that one way too hard, way too low. Didn't really have a chance. All right, we've got Roadrunner now. I'm gonna try to do the same thing as that F7. That Heat was a bad shot. There we go. Wider would have been nice. Get through though. That was short, but that's the flight I want. I think I kind of got scared of the last one, that Heat, that flipped up way too flat on me, so I babied that one a bit. So we're gonna find the happy medium with the Sidewinder. There it is right there. Pretty straight, get over. Oh, good skip off the road. Yeah, so that one, same exact line as the F7, but because it is that higher speed, it is gonna push a little bit further. All right, so we've had a few backhand holes, a couple backhand holes to kind of see shots like that. This is the perfect example of like beginner forehands now, which I get super stoked on because that's like 90% of what I throw. Actually, it's dropping, but I definitely am still majority forehand. This hole might be like 220 feet. Definitely like I have way more disc than is like what's typically needed for the shot, but for a beginner who's learning forehand, this is like ideal, especially with something understable like these. So basically what I'm gonna try to do is I honestly might even do standstill too, because that's a good way to practice forehands. Is I'm gonna stand here right on the end of the tee pad and I'm gonna try to go hyzer and like just miss the left side of this tree because the basket's sitting behind it. So if I throw something flat, my goal is to not get it to turn to the left at all on the forehand. At the very most, I want it flat and then just hyzer back at the end of the flight. So we'll see if we can kind of get that. But yeah, I'm gonna throw this nice and soft and try to simulate a beginner as much as possible. Oh, see, even then, skip. All right, so that just went right back into snow, so it's gonna be soaking wet again. But that's a good sign right there. I didn't throw that one very hard. I actually see like on our tech disc, I see a lot of beginners throw forehands like that. That is just fine. It's only gonna get better from there, especially with a less stable disc, like something like that Genius, or even this F7, because a lot of times how I learned to throw forehands, and a lot of people, I think a lot of professionals even will say this is the wrong way, I grabbed like a really overstable disc. So like this is a -4-1 turn and fade. The discs I started throwing forehand on were like 0-3, 0-4. So I threw like chop angles like this, and that's where I still mess up a lot of times, is that I'll throw this chop angle and it just dives right into the ground. If you're able to kind of perfect, or not even perfect, but just get decent at this hyzer flip up forehand, I promise you, you will throw so much further than I can right now. That's ideal. Go in. Oh wow, that was really short. All right, so this is very promising. One, that hole might be a lot longer than I think it is. The tree's just throwing me off. I hope you can see that. That is exactly what I wanted. I really hope I wasn't in the way. Flip up to flat, that rode flat, and it was hyzering at the end. I just threw it too short. All right, so I'm gonna make sure to get out of the way of this one. I'm gonna throw this one a little bit harder now, especially because now we're in the 9 speeds. I'm gonna throw it a little harder, try to get that same flight, but further. Oh, that was way too much. See, but I think, that was a really bad shot by the way, but I think that's like promising because it shows that even with like a super understable disc, it's still very usable in all shot shapes, you know what I mean? All right, one of these is gonna be good, I promise. What? All right, maybe not. Man, I feel like I had such good talking points and then my demonstration has been terrible. Sidewinder here, last one. Make sure to just get around the tree. Or throw it right at. All right, ignore where the discs landed and just look at the initial disc flight. That is very manageable for a beginner right there. Just something hyzer flip to flat, and if you want to throw it a little harder, great, you'll probably get some turn out of it, and that's more of a max distance shot. All right, hood is up, which means things are getting serious here. The next hole is gonna be a bit interesting to try to demonstrate from the perspective of a beginner because it probably is about, I bet it's pushing 400 feet, which even for like pretty advanced people, like I say pretty advanced than like say myself, but I'm not bad. My backhand form has not been great. It's getting better. But like I have just recently been like consistently kind of getting that 390 to 400 feet. So this is certainly a pump for a beginner. But we're gonna go ahead. We're just gonna try to air them out so you can see kind of hopefully what like a full flight looks like hyzer, flip up, turnover, fade back at the end. And maybe I'll get close to the basket, I don't know. Unfortunately, the discs are wet again. I'm gonna go backhand here. I don't think the forehand would be the smartest thing for me to do right now, so we're gonna go backhand, see if really just let them rip. Okay, that does not count because that was wet. That is a very common mistake for me. when throwing like deep hyzers like that is like, I'm trying to just throw it on this angle, but because I'm doing that, I'm releasing down for whatever the heck reason, I don't know, but I do it. Yeah, I think that was well short. I think that's gonna be very common. Like if you are a beginner and you're looking to rip on a disc, you probably will end up not throwing on enough hyzer and it's gonna get that flat. So I threw it on a hyzer, it flipped up and just burned over, but I could see someone just throwing it out flat and doing that. All right, we're at the 9 speeds now. I'm gonna try to go the same amount of hyzer on them. They'll probably flip up and still turn, but I don't think they're gonna burn over like that. Or they might. All right, good roller disc. I'm gonna have to remember where all these are. All right, so far not so good on the long hole here. After this one, I'll try to just bounce around to some of the shorter ones. I've been going in order, but I'll find some of the shorter ones. Oh, I hope that's in frame. Oh my gosh, that was so far. All right, so that, not quite to the basket, but that did finally get the full flight. Unfortunately, I just think it was out of frame. All right, that bodes well because I don't think this disc is gonna turn as much. Oh my heavens. Man, I'll tell you what, that feels really good throwing the disc like that, but as far as what I'm trying to do goes, not very good shots. All right, I'm changing my thought process here a little bit. That last hole, super long hole. I didn't think I was really gonna get there with these. Plus headwind just makes them more understable. We're in a tailwind now, but this hole is longer and plays uphill, so I'm not gonna technically throw for the basket. I'm throwing it that way as like an aiming point, you could say. But I'm just gonna try to throw these out smooth and a little bit faster than probably like hole 1 and hole 2, just to try to actually get you like a legit full flight out of the disc. And then I think what we'll do is go one more forehand hole, one more just kind of normal backhand hole, and then get out of here because it's freezing cold. All right, Genius up first, just nice and smooth. There's the turn. Kid on a bike, way short, thank goodness. Yeah, that is the flight I've been trying to get like all day. Too much hyzer, but man, that flipped up still. All right, I feel like I could low-key get to the basket actually. I'm gonna keep the task at hand, but secondary goal is maybe get to the basket. Flip up, oh yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're getting there. And again, because that's a little bit higher speed and the tailwind's gonna make it a little more stable, that one didn't flip as much. So the Roadrunner has the exact same numbers all the way through as the Heat. I'm gonna throw it just like that, but a little harder and try to get that turn out of it. A little bit of turn. Very, very similar distance in that Heat. Okay, last one, Sidewinder. Same thing, I'm gonna take off some hyzer and throw it the same way. Just a touch, same way. I need to get that flip up, turn, and finish to it. We'll love it. All right, so it's at this point that the microphones got too cold, and so they just turned off on me. They were still charged. I checked them when I got back to the car, but they were still charged, turned off. So I'm gonna voice over the rest of this. I'm basically talking about how the Genius actually went further than the Undertaker, even though the Undertaker is a higher speed, and it's because I actually did get that full flight out of the disc, where the Undertaker kind of flipped up to flat and then hyzered out. I finally got I got that full flight, that flip up, turnover with the Genius, and it faded out. So on this hole, what I'm trying to do is just throw like a hyzer shot like I did on hole 1 and 2, but there's a pretty strong headwind, and this is me trying to justify it right now why that was a bad shot. It's the headwind, so it's just turning all the discs over, and it was pretty strong. So yeah, there, I'm trying to explain it now. But try again, same thing. Not as bad, but definitely still not good. third time's the charm with the Undertaker. I thought the higher speeds would hold better, and I guess technically they did. You know, it didn't turn over as much, but they're still way off to the right. And I really can't tell if it's like an aiming issue or not, or if it was just the wind turning everything over with those understable discs. But I threw this Sidewinder on a ton of hyzer and kept it low because it's like, this one is not going right, and it worked. Now we are throwing forehands. This is the last hole. We're throwing forehands, and now the wind's changed, so now I'm explaining it again. The wind is like right to left, so anytime the disc gets exposed, like the bottom of the disc gets exposed, I'm actually showing it now like that. It just is going to keep holding that angle, and especially with understable discs, there's just not a lot of fight. This is the F7. I threw this, technically the flight how I wanted, but my aiming was way off and similar. This is exactly what I wanted. This is the heat. This is the exact flight I wanted. Had I thrown that at the basket, it would have been so good. So now I'm like, I need to throw it straight. I overcompensate, and I turn that one over plus the wind, so that was just like doomed from the start. And then finally, I threw one good here, but of course, as I do, I'm in the way. So that one was actually a really great shot. Just couldn't see it. So now we're doing the little outro here. Basically, if you guys want to see more of these types of videos, not necessarily like tutorial types, but I guess I probably could. I like to think I'm like a better coach than I am player. But like a lot of stuff like these beginner friendly type videos, let me know in the comments what you want. Want to see, and I'll see if I can kind of work it in somewhere, because again, like obviously like more advanced people kind of know a little bit more about disc golf because they've been playing longer, where the beginners, like if I can help them out as much as possible to get them into the game, that's what I want to do. So if you like that, like, comment, subscribe. I think that's what I'm saying right now. We have a ton of stuff coming. I'm about to travel, do the 50 states. Jacob's got his own series. We have the podcast going. So if you want to see any of that, make sure to subscribe. That helps us out a ton. Thank you again. And I believe I say it at the end of the video, but we say it at the end of all of them. But Ozark Mountain Disc to the moon, and we'll see ya.